Welcome back, everybody. Broadcasting to you from the Cape Town International Convention Centre. This is going to be the venue where we are hosting our budget breakfast with the Finance Minister. And as you can see behind me, all the guests are ready and waiting for the arrival of the Minister. They've got some questions they're going to be asking the Minister, and we certainly are going to send mics around the room, and we'll be getting questions from you as well, and we'll pose them to the Minister. But right now, we are joined by Tony Ehrenreich, and I'm looking forward to hearing from him and his perspective. He, of course, is the COSATU Provincial Secretary. Thank you very, very much. Tony, good to see you this morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. How do you find the budget yesterday?
Well, I think we certainly welcome the first budget announcement by the new Finance Minister, but the budget was uninspiring in relation to the inspirational message that the President had given us. What the President had really done to the nation is to say that we're on a new path, there's a new deal. We've got to deal with things differently and ensure different outcomes. So we're excited about the reaffirmation of making sure that those who were corrupt in the public service, but also those who were corrupt in the private service, are now going to go to jail. I think that will send a clear signal to people. But we've got to make sure that we deal with those things that have a negative impact on people and that are largely still a legacy of apartheid. We haven't put enough funds towards addressing those things in a meaningful way. The new economic model must drive a consumption-based model that's based on domestic demand. And for people to raise domestic demands, we need to put more money in people's pockets. So that's the key thing that we think was missing in this budget. Yeah. We're, of course, concerned about the revenue side. Raising VAT does not help poor people. If you were going to raise VAT, then we should have staggered it so that the wealthy are paying more VAT on certain of the items that they consume, but poor people should be shielded from that. There's a lot of room in the budget to raise money. The rebates on medical aid, there's 20 billion rand there. We've taken 700 million rand from. So there was a lot of space to claw back some more money that was given to people in the past. What we'd want to see is a move away from the Zuma legacy that we've had in the past. It seems, based on the Finance Minister's statement, that he still thanks Zuma for this budget. Say, this is still a Zuma budget. We want to see a budget that's aligned to the promises of Cyril Ramaphosa, something that puts us on a new path.
Well, that's one of the questions I'm certainly going to be posing to the Minister. Is this a Zuma budget, or was this quickly changed to accommodate this new leadership that the ANC has? But that'll happen in a short while, as soon as the Minister does join us, so we're giving away some of the key questions. But nonetheless, what I want to speak to you about is the announcement by the Minister to cut back on that public service wage bill. I mean, it's sitting currently at 587 billion rand. That's the state salary bill. Now, this directly impacts your members, doesn't it?
It does, and I suppose it's a soft target. We'll always talk about wage bills in relation to total expenditure, but what we've got to do is raise the total expenditure of the country as a whole and raise the income levels as a whole for what the fiscus has to work with. And therein lies the problem. We're not getting enough money in, so what we want to do is hit back at the soft targets. We've already removed 3% of the public service by removing positions that were frozen in the past. There's got to be a new way to deal with it, because you can't have nurses and policemen who are already overextended in their job categories facing more cuts. You in fact need more of those public servants to make sure that we're able to roll out the services that society needs. So we're concerned about that approach towards the budget. We've got to deal with identifying what the problems are in the country and then speaking to those problems. We can't look at what the money is and then saying how we allocate it, because then we're not going to come to the issues that we need to be focusing on as a country.
I mean, one of the issues that's been spoken about is this obviously being very, very top-heavy. So you've got too many government departments, too many ministers, too many deputy ministers, too many mayors, too many premiers, and this is inflating that bill. And the workers are the ones that are actually suffering at the end of the day. Your perspectives on that? I mean, this is something that's been brought up by the new president as well, that these departments need to come together, that we need to see them shrinking and not growing and expanding at the rate that they are.
Absolutely. I mean, the problem in South Africa is that we've used political positions to buy patronage under the Zuma administration, and that must stop, and that must stop immediately. So we've got to cut back on the number of ministers. We've got to cut back on the perks and the extravagances that ministers have. Where we now see in the budget that there's allocations made for new offices for DIRCO, we're expanding the embassies and a number of other things. Those are not priorities at this stage of our country's development needs. We've got to make sure that the money that we have is directed at the most urgent needs that we have, that responds to our people's challenges first. The other nice to haves can come later on. But we would have hoped that we would have got a more decisive signal on what the cuts are going to be around the ministries, the record of perks for ministers and what we're going to be making sure that government officials at the top section of the labour market takes home in salaries.
We'll again quiz the Minister on those particular issues as well. Anything else that stands out for you? Because, I mean, obviously we saw a marginal increase in grants. Were you satisfied with that?
We're glad that there was a marginal increase, but clearly if you're going to have a demand-driven economic growth strategy, then you've got to find a way to put more pocket money into the pockets of poorer communities. Grants are an important way to do that in our society because it's old people who, through the old age grants, are able to spend a lot of their money on keeping households going. If there's more money there, it drives domestic consumption, it drives domestic demand, and we're able to create more jobs. So that was an opportunity where we could have taken decisive steps. And those are the kind of things that we should be doing. Some of the more negative stuff that we're glad is off the budget and seems to be pushed right back on the agenda is things like the nuclear deal and many of the other nice-to-have things. So that's a move in the right direction. But clearly under the new presidency, we've got to see that the promises that were made in the State of the Nation address is matched by the commitments for funding in the budgets. Because ultimately the budget is the bridge that builds the connection between the promises we make and what we actually deliver. And we haven't seen enough in this budget to achieve that.
Tony, thank you very, very much for talking to us. Get your breakfast. I'm not going to say it's going to get cold because it is a cold breakfast, so go and enjoy it.
Thank
Tony, thanks very, very much. Tony, of course, as you know, is the Provincial Secretary for COSATU talking to us here at this budget breakfast in Cape Town at the International Convention Centre. This is where we'll be broadcasting to you from for the next 2 hours here on the program. Our Minister should be joining us shortly. However, let's take a break. We'll go back to the Johannesburg studio and the news at 7 will follow. Stay tuned.